Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Care Truth. I'm Marlena, and I'm here with June, and we're going to talk a little bit about how hospice affects families and the myth that hospice is only about families or only about the patient and their experience. So, June, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you started on this hospice journey.
Yeah, well, I am the younger sister of a brother who has had a very severe and unique form of bipolar since the age of 18, the typical age of onset. It resulted in his need for guardianship at some point, even though he was able to get married and have three wonderful children. He lost that to bipolar. I had moved up to Minnesota from Illinois, which is where we grew up. I moved my brother up too in the last 15 years or so because of all the great services here and wonderful resources like the Geneva Suites, which is something that I had no idea that a place like the Geneva Suites was even possible, having grown up in Peoria, Illinois, and then also watching my brother spiral downwards there and seeing him end up in places that were nothing like a group home like Brayburn in Edina. So his bipolar has been the main health concern until perhaps it could be that it's a little bit COVID related because he did get a bad case of COVID, but he's started to have increasing bouts of pneumonia in the last 4 or 5 years, I would say. And so more and more of his hospitalizations have been the result of pneumonia and
Yeah.
aspiration pneumonia.
Yeah. And
He
that's
was
hard too, isn't it? So, but it seems like his body just started really changing and was kind of becoming too much. And is that what prompted you to start thinking about hospice?
Yes, I remember, he went into the hospital like early last summer, and then he was in a rehabilitation facility for 6 months and really didn't get much better. Then started going in and out of the hospital again, was able to make it back to
Yeah, we were
Brayburn.
so glad to get him back home.
Yes, which was an incredible operation, getting
Really
the
was.
pieces in place, the new equipment that he needed, as well as the support from his medical assistants and just all of that. And you were can do, Marlena. And again, that was that's just so rare, I think. And I'm really, really grateful. But yeah, he ended up back at Brayburn and we thought, oh, he's gonna be home and he's gonna be getting well again. But this pneumonia, this aspiration pneumonia, has just really begun to plague him.
Yeah,
And
he seems to just really be having a hard time kicking it. His body doesn't seem to be fighting it the way, one of our more typical or younger bodies would. So, with your decision to have him go on hospice, did you feel any guilt about that decision or hesitation about choosing to start that journey?
well, I'm actually, I mean, not really just because of the way it lined up in the sense that he did end up kind of back and forth in the emergency room about 3 times over the holidays, and I finally just started asking those questions like, how can we stop this? The word hospice came up,
Yeah.
amongst the professionals. Then I started looking into that, and it seemed like it was going to be a decision that was going to land on my lap. But then the doctor had an order that meant he would have to go to a nursing facility based on her orders or try hospice. At that point, it was like I didn't really have to make the decision. Fred did not want to go to another nursing home.
Good.
So it was that was wonderful because yeah, I could see that without some of those
Without those clear indicators, it can be hard to make that decision. So, I think a lot of families can relate to that. What kind of support have you received from hospice? I know I just saw Fred today, and he is really doing well, like the best I've seen him in months, which is fantastic. And I think that added support is doing so much for his mental health and his physical health. Like, it's incredible.
I know. And yes, Fred has gotten through so many close calls in his life, and this seems to be another incredible turnaround here. And yes, I would just say that hospice, it's all because of hospice.
Well,
I
and
mean,
the good care he's getting, of course, right?
of course, the good care, yeah, the incredible layers of care and coordination between staff at Brayburn and the hospice staff. So he's getting this like, maybe what you get at Mayo or something. This very holistic, integrated, um, just yeah, unbelievable type levels and dimensions of care. Um,
Yeah. So what therapies is Fred utilizing? What things do you think are having a big what added support from hospice do you feel is making the biggest impact on
I think the twice weekly visits by a nurse,
him?
in addition to all the staffing and nursing visits he gets at Brayburn, I think those are really incredible. I know he's also been visited by all of the other therapists and
I know he's loved the music
professionals.
therapy specifically. When music therapy came in and did the music just for him, he was just like, wow, this is so cool.
Yes, yes. So just right, just this kind of individualized care that I don't know where how else we would have found it. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what has hospice been able to do to help support you as a family member?
oh yeah, well they are totally available as are you guys. So um I just have more people I can kind of check in with, get updates from, get a sense of, well, that I'm not alone. You know,
Yeah.
I am not alone with the complexity of Fred's
hmm
situation.
And that is quite a burden. I mean, with you being his sister, it's a whole different dynamic, right? It's one thing when it's a spouse or a child, but as a sister, you have that sibling relationship. And then now you're also trying to develop care and a plan for him. And I'm sure, I mean, if it was my brother, there sometimes would be conflicts with that. So I can only
Oh,
imagine that, it's just a sibling thing, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And he's an older brother. So, yeah, there's that dynamic as well.
Yeah, for sure. Do you wish you would have engaged with hospice sooner? Do you think that that would have made any difference? Or do you feel like the timing that you started this road of hospice for Fred was the right time?
I think it was absolutely the right time. I don't think that it would have worked in our situation earlier because I was not hearing that word. So
Mm-hmm.
it would have been like I would have had to come up with that, and that it feels like it kind of needs to come from the professionals. The
Yeah.
hospital was saying it. You guys were affirming that that would be, appropriate. Um,
Mm-hmm.
nobody was nobody was like demanding it,
Mm-hmm.
but he's got options. But yeah, I don't think I would have been able to kind of initiate it exactly.
Were there any like misconceptions that you had about hospice got that have been changed now that you've been working with a hospice company?
I've learned a lot more. I think that maybe, I don't know what was in my mind before, but I have been amazed and just like so excited to learn about how holistic hospice is. It's almost like alt an alternative approach to health.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I even now associate it with dying, you know.
right.
I'm now associating hospice with, yeah, hey, something isn't might not be working out there with the hospital stuff and those approaches. So maybe try this alternative approach.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible how just the added attention and the added eyes on and all the different brain powers working together to see what's going to help Fred thrive. And last week we had Bobby and Cindy on, and they were talking and they were saying how, having all of the collaborations, one person may come up with something and they're like, yeah, that could really work. And then it just evolves into a much better plan of care, and it's about living every day to the best, not about planning on someone passing away, which I found really, really powerful. The nurse was there today when I was popping in to see Fred, and she had just had a nice conversation with him, and he's like, I feel a lot better, and I feel like I'm just getting so much support. So that was really cool to hear as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. He's been getting a lot better, honestly, with
Yeah,
hospice.
so what kind of advice would you give to families if they have a loved one who they're seeing is kind of doing the merry-go-round of going in and out of the hospital or lots of TCU stays? What advice would you give them?
Definitely check in with various hospice providers and try something different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you're saying by checking with various hospice providers, that's so great to hear because you should interview one or two because hospice is always your choice. You get to pick which company, and each one is a little different and they have a little different vibe. And some offer, their standard services that all of them offer, but they all have a little bit unique way of doing it, just like so many other companies. And so it's great to check and figure out which one's going to really gel with you and your loved one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, June, I so appreciate you taking the time and sharing your experience with all of our listeners. Is there anything else you want to make sure that you share before we hop off?
No, I mean just I guess the hope and the hopefulness that there are resources out there and one does not need to feel alone with these kind of huge, um, heavy duty health situations. And yeah, because as kind of a caregiver, you gotta, take care of your own health and using resources like yours and hospice and other things that might be out there and available is just going, it's good for everyone.
That is really good advice. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for coming and spending a little time with the Care Truth. We greatly appreciate you spending the time with us. And if you found this episode helpful, please like it, share it, subscribe to our channel. We're definitely trying to get some more engagement. And thank you again, June. We really appreciate your time. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.